Steve here in the Down to Earth Woodworking shop. In this video, we're going to take a look at how I plumbed up the ductwork for my dust collection system. And plumbing is probably the right terminology since I chose to use PVC pipe for my ductwork. Now there's a lot of controversy over what's better, either metal or PVC, and I'm not going to weigh in on that controversy. What I am going to do is just show you some selected snippets from my installation, and something new in this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks I learned along the way for working with PVC. Now in our next video, we're going to be hooking up a static electric discharge system to the PVC pipe, and you'll get a long look at the entire ductwork system. But for now, let's start putting together some PVC pipe. Well, I've got a lot of fittings and I've got a lot of pipe, and it's time to start plumbing up the dust collection system. But before I can even get started, I got to clear off a section of this wall because this is where the pipe is going to come through the ceiling, the floor upstairs, and down this wall. So let's get started doing that first. Okay, I got that cleared up. Now, the next thing that I got to do is I need to remove this overhead light here because I've got to come through the ceiling and I don't want that getting in the way. Okay, so basically what I want to do is, now remember the roof above is slanting down towards this wall. And the dust collector is sitting out over here. So basically what I want to do is I want to run a direct line from the dust collector over to this, and I want to keep this as close to the wall as I possibly can. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to cut out a section of the floor up here so I can kind of run a piece of pipe up there and tell what it looks like. Alright, okay, I'm trying to set up a little cutting station here for this PVC pipe. What I've done is I've got a couple of scraps of 3/4 inch plywood and an old scrap of 2x4 here. And I'm going to put another one over here on this side. And this will be for cutting this large pipe. Later I can move this to cut the smaller pipe. Sounds like it's time for a new battery there. Alright, and I marked out my location. What I did was I measured from the factory end to the dimension that I was looking for. I turned it, made another mark, turned it, made another mark, wound up with 4 marks. Then I used this little thin strip of wood and bent it around and connected those marks, so I've got a guideline here, and hopefully I can stay pretty close to that. We'll see. Okay, that's a pretty nice cut in. I don't recommend doing this with your fingers because a PVC splinter is pretty painful. But I just wanted to show you what the cut end would look like. And it's pretty nice. Pretty nice. PVC pipe should be beveled on the ends so that the pipe mates smoothly with the fitting. Note the bevel in the photo. There are, of course, tools on the market for making the bevel, but they're pretty expensive. You can bevel joints easily. First, make sure the end of the pipe is perfectly square. You could use a disc sander like I did, or just use a piece of sandpaper glued to a board. Then with the pipe clamped in a vise, use the coarse side of a 4-in-hand file and make the 15-degree bevel. Then smooth the bevel using the other side of the file or some sandpaper. Okay, so the purpose of that pipe, that pipe is not the size that I need for anything. The purpose of that pipe was to be able to prop this up here at the approximate height and then start to get some dimensions and figure out exactly what fittings I'm going to need. This will extend to the floor, but it's gonna, right in here, it's going to transition and it's going to go down to a 4-inch pipe, which is going to go into a floor sweep. But for right now, this will hold this up in position and we can get an idea of the angle upstairs. Okay, with the basic plumbing up to the dust collector and down to this wall, it's a good start. I've got all the pieces cut and pretty much ready to go. They were all dry fit together. Now I've disassembled most of the pieces, which by the way is pretty difficult because PVC fits together pretty snugly. Use a rubber mallet and a block of wood and go around the fitting, around the edges of the fitting, and you'll be able to knock them apart. What I did while the pipe was up here is I marked the outside edges of this large pipe coming down. And then I measured between those and I used a level and I marked a center line. What I'm getting prepared to do is to provide some attachment points for this pipe to the wall. Not that I don't think this stuff isn't heavy enough it'd stay in place by itself, but I just want to make sure. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. From this center line, I measured out 1 3/4 inches on both sides, and then I used a level to make a level cross mark here and another down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a hose clamp to the wall, and then I'll be able to pull the hose clamp together and screw it up tight to attach the pipe to the wall. Let me show you how I'm going to attach this. These are Romex cable nail down things that hold a Romex cable in place when you're running it through the wall. Found that if you just pull the nails out of these Romex cable holders, a number 6 sheet metal screw will thread in. It's a little tight, but it'll go right into this hole. It'll almost self-tap into this plastic, and the notch in the back, which is made for the Romex cable, is just the right size for the hose clamps. So let's see how this is going to work. Okay, so now this will still move, allowing me to get this centered, and it's open so that I can set the pipe in there. So now I'll put the other one on, and we're getting close to being able to mount this part of the assembly into place. Okay, now I have this propped up down here just to take the weight off of it, because here is where, well, I've got 1 2x4 propping it up. This is where the transition is to the 4-inch pipe, which will go down to a floor sweep, but I'm waiting on a blast gate to come in, so I can't install that yet. But that looks pretty good for now. Okay, bit by bit, I'm piecing together the piping for this. Now, this line is going to run out and have a drop and continue on and have another drop over on the other side of my shop for machines that port out the top, like my planer and my drum sander. So Since I'm running the pipe through between these joists, I want to make sure that I'm not transferring any vibration through the building. So in order to support this pipe up here, what I've done is I've made some pipe supports up. And all this is a piece of 1/2-inch plywood cut to span across these two joists, and a smaller piece that's sized to fit between the joists. And then to the top of that, I've attached a piece of stick-on foam insulation. And I've got a piece of foam insulation above that will line up with it. So this will hold the pipe between the joists, and the insulation will insulate the vibration, hopefully, to keep it from carrying through. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece of pipe in here and work it in to the fitting. A rubber mallet is indispensable when assembling PVC pipe, but a little soapy water in a spray bottle really helps too. And get it seated. Then I'm going to line up this little bracket, just like that. And I'm going to use some number 6 wood screws. I pre-drilled holes. And there we go. And this is my long sweep T-fitting, or Y-fitting. From where I'll plumb down my drop. Okay. Okay, this is an aluminum blast gate, little knob here to hold the blast gate closed, and it needs to be mounted inside a piece of 4-inch PVC pipe in order to connect to your plumbing system. It won't connect to a fitting. The fit is real loose. So what I did was I used electrical tape, which is soft and resilient and stretchy, and I stretched the electrical tape. I found just by doing a couple of these that 3 wraps around is just perfect for a really snug fit. And then you can press it in, and it's a nice airtight fit. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put a couple of sheet metal screws in. Okay, so now for connecting this, I'm using number 6 by 1/2-inch hex head sheet metal screws. That way I can use a nut driver. It takes a 1/4 inch nut driver, and I'm just going to screw this in and secure these two pieces together. Now on the rest of the plastic to plastic connections, I'm using a regular Phillips head 5/8 inch long number 6 screw, because it takes that extra distance to get through the thickness of the 2 PVC pieces. But there we go, nice and tight. There's no way that's coming off now. In fact, 1 screw would probably be sufficient, but I'm going to put a second one in because I'm going to use one of these screws as a connecting point for my static discharge wire. And if you don't think PVC generates a little static electricity, look at the aluminum shaving stuck to the PVC just from drilling that hole. Just a couple of additional tips. Who would have thought it, but blast gates, at least the ones I used, need to be oriented correctly. The locking knob should be facing away from the suction side. They seal better that way. Measure the depth of the bevel inside fittings and mark the pipe with that depth. That way you can easily tell when a pipe is fully seated in a fitting. A pipe hanger or pipe support strap is a good way to extend a mark all the way around a pipe. I hope you enjoyed seeing some selected snippets from the installation of the ductwork, the piping of the dust collection system here in the Down to Earth Woodworking shop. Don't forget, in the next video you'll be able to see the entire ductwork system because we're going to be hooking up a static discharge system to all the PVC pipe. So be sure and come back for the next video in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.